Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be with you. Brad Macbeth here with the Simple Plan Live. And this week we're going to be looking at probably the biggest question people think about when they think about making plans financially, and that is retirement. And we're going to specifically look at how much you need to be saving in order to reach your retirement goals. And that's a question with a number of moving parts, and we're going to talk about that. First, I want to give thanks to the Simple Plan community, our sponsor. We invite you to join the Simple Plan community. It's free. You can walk together with like-minded folks who are trying to make the most of their money and their finances and to enjoy their life financially. You join us on Facebook. We have tips. We have lots of great conversations. We post tools in there. We'll answer your questions. Bring them forward. We're happy to answer any questions in there. Also, you can get lots of different perspectives from other people who are walking through the same journey that you are. So join us, won't you, there at facebook.com/groups/Simple Plan Community. And so we're going to take a look today at simple, well, it's not really simple. It looks simple. A retirement calculator that is going to help you to understand the two kind of complicated aspects of how much you need in order to retire. Retirement isn't really an age. Retirement is the phase of life where we stop living off the money that we earn by working, and we live off the money that's generated by our assets. Those assets can be savings, RSPs, pension plans, all sorts of things. But the difference is we no longer have to work daily in order to create income, to put food on the table, shelter over our head, and all that good stuff. So that's the simple definition, and to me, the most accurate definition of retirement. All right, so now it sounds simple enough, but there's a number of, the two big questions there are, how much do I need to accumulate? Because that's going to get us to a point where we have enough assets accumulated that we're confident we can live off our assets for the rest of our lives. Because, if you run out of money when you're 87, it's a little difficult to go out and work. Not impossible. Some people are doing it. Some people are up to it. But a lot of us won't be up to it when we reach that age physically. And so when we retire, when we say, well, I don't need to earn any more money from working day to day, then we want to be confident that we're not going to outlive our savings. That is the number one financial anxiety of Canadians, is they worry that they will outlive their savings. And so you can see from that there's really three phases we have to be concerned with. The first is what we call the accumulation phase, which is how much do I need to be saving in order to get to the point where I've accumulated enough that I no longer have to work, that retirement point. And when we get to that point, we call that the transition point. So you've got the accumulation up to the transition point, and at transition, that's when you transition to start living off your assets and your savings. And then you have to be doing it in such a way that it's going to last you the rest of your life. And also you want to be doing all of this in the most tax efficient way possible. And so there's a bunch of assumptions that go into it, a number of calculations, and it can get fairly complicated. However, we have built a tool for you that makes it simple for you to calculate these numbers. So let's take a look at that. All right, so here we have what we call our nest egg calculator. And it's going to tell you how much you need to accumulate to generate the nest egg that you need to live comfortably in your retirement. Now, this is a simplified version. We do analyses like this for clients when we put together plans for them that are much more complex than what you're going to see here. But they have all these basic parts in them, and this will get you a pretty accurate number for both how much you need to accumulate and how much you need to save in order to get there. So we start, oh, and by the way, you can go to this spot yourself. It's right on our website. It's at getthesimpleplan.com /nest egg. That's getthesimpleplan.com/nest egg. And we start with, we'll put that up there again for you later. We start with the basic question, what's your age today? And so let's, in our example, let's use someone who's 38 years old. So you simply, in this calculator, all you do is enter information in the yellow boxes when you see them. There's even a little help here on how to use the calculator if you're not sure what to do. So you enter your age today. We're going to pick 38, and then you click the next button. And then in today's dollars, how much money will you want monthly to live on? Now, again, this is a simplified calculator. It's not doing the tax calculations. So for this, think of this as pre-tax money. So I'm going to put in that our person here wants $5,000 a month. That's in today's dollars to live on. So that if they were retiring today, they would want $5,000 a month. Now, some things to think about, because this becomes an interesting question as well. Needs a lot of work and exercise when you're going to really get serious about that question. How much do I need to live on in retirement? Because our expenses change when we reach retirement. Hopefully we may well have a paid for house, primary residence. And so we're not making a mortgage payment. Obviously, if we're hitting retirement, we should have saved enough to retire. So we're no longer saving for retirement. So hopefully we don't need as much money to live on in retirement as we need as we're accumulating. Now, if things go well, we'll have even more money and we're going to live quite well in retirement. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But when you're putting your kind of retirement targets together, these are some of the things you think about when you put together a retirement budget. You want to be putting together kind of a spending plan for how much money you're going to want to spend in retirement to do those things that you wanted to do, like travel or enjoy pastimes that you've been looking forward to, or perhaps to be a generous donor or to be a volunteer, whatever you think you're going to do in retirement. So this person, we're figuring they want $5,000 a month in today's dollars. Now, of course, you can say, well, what about inflation? That's all built into the calculator. You don't have to worry about it. That's why we ask that you give us the number in today's dollars. The calculator is going to take care of that. So now, two important sources of income that people will have in retirement in Canada is Canada Pension Plan and Old Age Security. And both of those, well, Canada Pension Plan is well funded now. Premiums keep going up if you haven't noticed. And so that money is going to be there when you get there to retire. And I believe Old Age Security will be as well, because it would be kind of political suicide for people to do away with or severely diminish Old Age Security. So if you've been a Canadian working in Canada all your life, right now you would receive $618 a month in Old Age Security. And for Canada Pension Plan, now you can go on to the MyCRA or My Service Canada website, and you can actually go and find out how much you would get for Canada Pension Plan projected at your retirement, whether you're going to take it at age 60 or 65 or 69 or 71 or whatever. So I'm just going to use what's, I would call around a median Canada Pension Plan. For someone retiring at age 65, it's about $850 a month or so. Now, if you have another source of pension, and by that I mean defined benefit pension. I don't mean an RSP match program at your work that's going into mutual funds. I mean an actual defined benefit pension, which is mostly only now for people who work in various sectors of government, whether they're direct government workers or teachers or healthcare workers or what have you. Public safety workers, that kind of thing. So if you have one of those, then by all means, enter your projected pension there when you're going to hit retirement. Now, that can also get to be a complicated question, and if you need assistance with that, flip us some questions. We're happy to help you out with the details of that, because it can really get into the timing of when you're going to retire from whatever your job was with a workplace pension. And there's other things like bridging CPP that goes in there, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to cover that. But if you have a pension, either put that number in there or we can help you out to figure out what should go in there. All right, so here's the magic question. What age are you going to retire? And what did we say retirement was? Retirement is the point at which you're going to switch to living off your assets from living off the income that you earn daily. Now, you may actually decide to continue working, but you're going to be working because you want to, not because you need to financially. All right, so we click next, and there we go. Here's our inflation adjustment. Now, we've built 3% inflation in here, which might have sounded a little high a while back to people when we were kind of putting around 1.5 to just below 2%. Inflation's been on a bit of a tear the last year or so, increasing significantly. So 3% is somewhat of a middle ground, might actually be a little low now. We'll show you how you can adjust those numbers at the end of this. So the inflation adjusted number, remember we said we wanted $5,000. We're 38 years old and we're retiring at 65. So there's another 27 years of inflation before we hit age 65. And bear in mind, there's going to be inflation after we hit age 65. So this also adjusts as well so that you will have the equivalent spending power of $5,000 today throughout your retirement. So when you first retire at age 65, that would mean if inflation had been 3%, you're going to need $7,846 a month in order to have the equivalent of $5,000 of income today. All right, so we'll click next. Well, here's how big your nest egg's going to be based on an annual return of 8%. And so at 8%, assuming you get an 8% rate of return on your investments, you're going to need $1,447,272 in order to live on that $5,000 a month. And this calculator actually goes out to age 100 because you don't want to run out of money at age 97. Okay, so that sounds like a big number to most people, and that's the number one reason we need to start making these calculations, is so we get our heads around how much we're going to have to accumulate. That sounds like a lot of money to most people. Now let's see what that looks like. So how much do you already have saved? And by saved, I mean money that's earmarked specifically for retirement, not money you've got set aside for your kids or emergency funds or for the car you're going to buy or the vacation you're going to take or anything else. Specifically targeted for retirement. Doesn't have to be in a TFSA or an RRSP. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But this money is in the bank waiting for retirement. So let's say that our person here has managed to save $125,000. Maybe they've had a good workplace matching program for 10 years and they've been diligently saving. What happens next? Okay, so here's our number of how much money we need to be saving starting today to grow our nest egg to reach our target. And so it's $325 a month. So that's not actually that bad a number, I would say. If we're setting aside $325 a month. Let's go back one step. Let's imagine we hadn't saved anything. So we can see the effect of how starting early makes a difference. All right, so we've got nothing saved, not an untypical situation. Well, now we need to save $1,268 a month. That's over $900 a month difference. And we'd only at this stage projected we had less than 10% of our final goal already accumulated. But if we'd already accumulated that, the effect of compounding interest over that period of time would reduce the amount we need to save monthly by $900 a month. So let's go back and make life happy in the middle. We'll go with $60,000. All right, so now we need to be saving $815 a month. Probably going to sound hefty to a lot of people, but it's just the numbers, folks. We can kind of react emotionally against these things and start to rationalize and justify, but it's just numbers. And so if we're going to make adjustments, we should make them by adjusting our numbers. And so we get this summary here that tells us our numbers, which is my age today is 38. My target is $5,000 a month in equivalent, today's dollar equivalent. My retirement age is age 65. So my monthly nest egg monthly retirement income is going to be $7,846. That means I need I require a nest egg of $1,447,000. And if I have $60,000 saved, then I need to be saving $815 a month. Now you can see here are the two rates that are variable they're the assumptions that we've built in. So let's say, for example, we want to be more conservative. A lot of people are out there, they're getting their financial advice from the bank. The bank will almost invariably tell you should be in this Canadian balanced fund, which throughout this kind of amazing run that the stock markets have been at, well into double digits, often for many of the past years, banks have been chugging along, getting people like 6% in their balanced funds. Very safe, far too safe in my opinion, but that's up to you. But let's see, $815 is our 8% amount. If we lower it to 6, let's hit the enter key. Oh my, isn't that a difference? We go from needing $800 a month to needing $1,900 a month. Do you think that 2% on an investment return rate makes a big difference? What if we could get 9? Now we're down to $450. This is, you can see that the different assumptions we make have a big impact, and we need to be thinking about this. This is why it's so important, in my opinion, to work with an advisor, unless you're going to really dedicate yourself an awful lot of time to taking care of this business. Because you have to really assess how you're going to reach whatever your target rates are and whether you're willing to take the risk necessary and that kind of thing. Against the downside, it's risk either way, right? You risk by going into investments that may give you a higher rate of return, or you risk by getting a lower rate of return and falling short in the amount of money that you save. You'll see too, the inflation rate has the same effect. So if we only had 2% inflation, our 454 would reduce to 163. It's amazing. But if our 3% inflation instead turns out to be 4, we're up to 880. So it's like every 2 points is doubling or more the effect on the amount we need to save monthly. Now, if you want to adjust, if you get to this point and you go, well, I want to adjust something else. I want to adjust what my retirement age is going to be. Okay, so I go back here. We can say, well, I'll work a little longer. Let's say I'm going to work to age 67. What's the effect on that? Well, that's $699. Let's go back to our 8 and our 3, and it's $646. So you can see that you can play with the numbers. You can kind of move them back and forth and give yourself, you could change the amount of money that you need in retirement. Let's go back and have a look at that. How much money will I want monthly? Let's say I decide, well, maybe I can live on $4,000. Where does that leave us? We click forward. We only need to be saving $338. So there's lots of ways that you can think about this question. And a tool like this will help you to figure out when's the right time for me to retire. What's the right time for me to target that I want to retire. So now if you want to start all over as well, you can click cancel and it'll take you right back to the beginning and you can start all over again. So I hope you find this tool helpful. Again, you can get it at getthesimpleplan.com/nest egg. It's free to use, it's just there on our website, and it's going to give you a good sense of where you're at and where you need to be going. And if you need help with it, you let us know. We're happy to help you. So that's just a brief look today. It's really a simple exercise to look at something that's fairly complex. Now, I would start with doing this so that you have an idea of where you're at and what you want to do. But you're going to want to do something more comprehensive than just this to make your own plans. As I say, we're not factoring in taxes there, which can have a big impact, positive or negative. We like to say that we want to optimize everybody's taxes. You can't avoid paying taxes. Of course, you have to pay your fair share of taxes, but you don't have to pay more than your fair share of taxes. And if you can reduce your tax burden and turn that into some savings, that can have a profound effect on how much money you need to live on in retirement and how much you need to be saving to get to retirement. So thank you again for joining today. We help clients with those questions all the time. If you want any help, you can get in touch with us. Simply reach out to us, leave a message here, wherever you're watching this. Email us, go to our website, whatever you want. We're here to help. We love to help people reach their financial goals. So I want to say thank you again to our sponsor, the Simple Plan community. It's another place you can go if you want to reach out to us. Just join the group, facebook.com/groups/Simple Plan community. And this is exactly the kind of thing we work with and work on all the time in that group. Again, I'm Brad Macbeth. Thanks very much for joining us today. Next week, we're going to be looking at what it takes to save for your child's education. Another very interesting and complicated question, but one where there are many options, and also the government kicks in some nice assistance. So we're going to take a look at that next week. We're looking forward to it. Thank you very much for joining me today. Be sure to subscribe or follow us so you can hear about all the live events that we run. It's great being with you. Thanks very much. Have a blessed day.